It starts with a lingering glance, but for Bae In-hyuk, that small moment with co-star Lee Se-young in The Story of Park's marriage contract ignited a firestorm that exposes the suffocating reality of his fame, forcing him to publicly deny romance to protect a marketability that fuels a financial empire estimated at nearly $2.5 million. This fortune, amassed through a meteoric rise from web series novice to top-tier leading man in hits like Cheer Up and Our Universe, comes with a staggering price tag, an invisible cage of agency control where every interaction is monitored and every spontaneous outing is a security risk due to the relentless threat of sasaeng stalkers. He is no longer the ordinary guy searching for his style. He is a high-value commodity whose youth idol status demands he sacrifice his personal freedom and romantic privacy for the sake of brand deals and public perception, living in a high-security apartment not just for luxury, but for survival from the very fans who elevated him. Ultimately, Bae In-hyuk's story is one of ironic tragedy, a star who has achieved every professional dream, yet lives in a state of vigilant self-censorship, terrified that one slip of the mask could dismantle the kingdom he built from nothing. But here is where the story takes a turn into the darker realities of fame. While international fans might cheer for a real-life romance, the Korean entertainment industry operates on a razor's edge regarding the private lives of its idols. For a rising star like Bae In-hyuk, a dating rumor isn't just gossip, it is a potential economic disaster. When the whispers about him and Lee Se-young became deafening, fueled by hundreds of fan-made compilation videos dissecting their every interaction, the actors were forced into a corner. They had to issue denials, assuring the public through their agencies that they were merely close colleagues. It sounds like a standard refutation, but you have to read between the lines to understand the pressure. In the K-drama ecosystem, a young male lead's marketability relies heavily on his availability to the female gaze. He is sold as a fantasy, a perfect boyfriend figure who exists solely for the viewer's dreams. To admit to a relationship is to shatter that illusion, and to shatter the illusion is to risk losing endorsement deals, fan loyalty, and the carefully constructed youth idol image that Bae In-hyuk has fought so hard to build. So when he says he is single, is he telling the truth or is he protecting an empire? That is the question that haunts every discussion about his personal life. The obsession with his relationship status is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the invisible cage he lives in. To understand why he lives in a state of constant vigilance, you have to look at the money. It is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to acknowledge directly. Korean agencies guard the financial details of their stars like state secrets, and for good reason. If the public knew exactly how much these actors made per episode, the backlash could be severe in a culture that values humility and often resents excessive wealth. But analysts have done the math, and the figures are staggering. In just a few short years, Bae In-hyuk has vaulted from the precarious life of a web series actor to an estimated net worth projected to hit between $1 and $2.5 million by 2026. That is a leap that defies logic, but it makes perfect sense when you follow the money trail. The transition from supporting roles to leading man status doesn't just bring fame, it multiplies his per-episode salary exponentially. But the real cash cow isn't the script, it's the endorsements. Luxury brands, cosmetics giants, and massive corporations are not paying for his acting chops alone. They are paying for his face, his reputation, and his immaculate public image. When a brand signs him, they are buying into the narrative of the perfect, wholesome, approachable gentleman. This is where the pressure cooker begins to hiss. One slip-up, one leaked photo, one unsavory rumor, and those lucrative contracts vanish into thin air. This is the fear that lurks behind the glamorous red carpet appearances. It is a fear of self-destruction by accident. He is not just an actor, he is a walking corporation, and every move he makes is scrutinized by managers, sponsors, and fans alike. The agency behind him, YY Entertainment, acts less like a support system and more like a surveillance unit, monitoring his social circle, filtering his words, and essentially staging his life to ensure that the product remains pristine. It sounds dehumanizing because in many ways it is. If you trace this trajectory back to the beginning, you see a guy who started from zero, which makes the current suffocation even more tragic. Born on April 4th, 1998, Bae In-hyuk wasn't born into this madness. He walked into it with eyes wide open, but perhaps unaware of the price he would pay. In his youth, he was the definition of ordinary, lacking the influential relatives or industry connections that grease the wheels for so many second-generation stars. He was just a guy with a dream, grinding through tiny roles in web series where the budgets were low and the audiences were small. Back then, he was finding his style, learning how to angle his face for the camera, trying to figure out who he was as a performer. It was a struggle that built his character, character, but it also created a hunger that would eventually drive him to the top. The turning point, the moment the industry finally took notice, was his role in My Neighbor is a Gumiho. He played a student with an unrequited crush, a role that could have been forgettable in lesser hands. But Bae In-hyuk injected a vulnerability into the character that resonated with viewers. It was his first taste of widespread sympathy, and it served as a springboard for what was to come. Then came the teen hit Cheer Up, where he led a student cheerleading squad. This was the moment he cemented his status as a rising star, proving he could carry a narrative and charm a demographic that is notoriously fickle. But the real breakthrough, the moment that elevated him from a rookie contender to the top tier of South Korean actors, was undoubtedly the story of Park's marriage contract. This project was the catalyst. It was the role that made his name recognizable not just to devoted K-drama fans, but to the general public, the ajumas watching TV in the afternoon, and the commuters streaming shows on the subway. With that fame came the money, the offers from top directors, and the intense scrutiny that now defines his existence. By 2026, with the resounding success of the romantic comedy Our Universe opposite No Jung-yi, he proved he wasn't a one-hit wonder. But with every step up the ladder, the walls of the cage grew tighter. The fear he lives with isn't just about protecting his paycheck, it is about physical safety and mental sanity. The dark side of his fame is a phenomenon known as sasaeng culture. These are not normal fans. They are stalkers who feel entitled to every second of his life. As his popularity has skyrocketed, these obsessed individuals have forced him to live a life of near total isolation. He can no longer simply walk down the street or meet a friend for coffee without plotting an escape route. His housing situation has evolved from the tiny, humble apartments of his early career to high-security, gated luxury complexes in Seoul's most prestigious areas. This move isn't about flashy living. It is about survival. He needs the high walls, the security guards, and the privacy to hide from the lenses of paparazzi and the invasion of fans who stalk his roots. The loss of personal freedom is the tax he pays for his success. Imagine having to hide your own route home just to get a few hours of sleep.